Trump. At this point, knowing it's almost impossible to judge from Trump's own language what he wants, except that you can tell there's clearly some disquiet in the Trump team about this debate, whether it's about the rules or about the debate happening at all. And yet the Harris team is prepping, as we know, at the moment. And they seem to want to go ahead with the debate. Ali, if you had to put your vast savings somewhere, is this debate happening and what are the rules going to be?
I would put it nowhere near this contest. No, look, I think...
On the chicken sound.
I will put it on the chicken sound. That is going to be a good investment. But I think we were always going to have a debate about the debate because Trump is so unhappy and unsettled around the idea that Joe Biden is no longer his opponent. But I think the debate has to happen, in large part because the onus is on Trump to prove that he has what it takes to go forward as the nominee for the Republican Party and to prove that he has the credentials, the acuity, the mental capacity, and to overcome the age questions that Joe Biden himself had to overcome and ultimately did not in that last debate. Shying away from this over some rules thing about mics being on or off, that is something that the Harris-Walz campaign can run with and say that Trump is too scared to debate. That will only incense him more. The fact that they want the mics on, though, does speak to the strategy that they might be trying to employ, this idea that she thinks, and there might be some truth to this, that if you just continue to poke at him, he will eventually erupt on a hot mic or not and show the kind of anger that he can present that won't look presidential. Not that that's stopped people from voting for him before, but that is certainly one of the strategies here.
And, Jean, we should remember it was the Biden team last time around that asked to have the microphones turned off. They felt that that would be to their advantage. They felt that it would give them a more effective debate compared to that disastrous one back in 2020. What's the benefit to Donald Trump of doing a debate with Kamala Harris at this stage? I mean, I know if he pulls out, he's going to be called a coward, but actually, from his point of view, would that be preferable than going into a debate with somebody who is a seasoned prosecutor and is performing so well as a candidate as she is at the moment?
Well, he may have some trepidation about that, but I think he believes, and I think his team believes, he needs to have this debate. Let's be clear. The Harris campaign is trying to change the rules, right? I mean, 3 weeks ago, they were saying, no, we're going to stick with the rules that were agreed with, you know, for the Biden debate. It's going to be September 10th. It's going to be ABC, the same rules. And now they're saying, well, but we want to change this rule. They're doing that because they can. Because at this point, it looks to me as if Donald Trump believes he needs this debate more than Kamala Harris does. She has had the momentum. She has caught up and in most polls passed him in the national polls. She's looking much better in the swing state polls. And she's been in the news, and she had better television ratings for her convention than he did. That's probably the thing that's driving him craziest. So I think that Harris campaign is kind of messing with Trump and his campaign at this point by making this demand. I think in the end there will be a debate. I think that Harris is confident of her ability to win a debate, and I think Trump feels he needs it.
Yeah, and this is the latest example of that classic genre where the Trump campaign says one thing and almost immediately Trump gets in front of a camera and completely undermines it, which we have now seen almost for a decade. You know, it also, Richard, you know, to the points just made. I mean, at the moment, this race is very, very close, but Harris has momentum. Trump probably feels like he's losing a little bit. The people who's behind, the candidate behind the polls is usually the one who wants the debate, thinks they can change the narrative. I also think that it's clear that part of the Harris team's strategy is promoting Donald Trump's ability to talk. Let's remember last week when he gave one of his news conferences, it was in Bedminster, New Jersey, the Harris campaign was advertising it like, tune in, watch Donald Trump, because they think the more he talks, the more Americans will see this man is just simply not qualified, not fit to go back to office. And we also know that Harris has had, both in the Senate and other debates, kind of viral moments where she has, like, you know, the I'm speaking, like that's they sell T-shirts with that on. That's one of her things when someone tries to interrupt her. How do you see this playing out? You know, I think Trump needs the debate, but there was a way for Harris to really solidify her hold on this race too.
Yeah, look, I think it's risky for Donald Trump to debate. It's also risky for him not. It's a real chance to make your points. And look, he wants to say this about certain issues, about immigration. Just yesterday, he was talking about the Afghanistan debacle, despite his own role in it. But anyhow, trying to put Kamala Harris on the defensive on food prices. So he has reasons to want the debate. Look, I think he has it about right. Traditionally, the person who is not winning sees it as a useful sort of thing. I don't think, though, either right now can be confident that without the debate, they've got this in the bag. Not even close. So I actually think both sides in their own way kind of want the debate because there's a chance to put points on the board. So my sense is both sides will want it. I think, if I were advising the Harris campaign, which I'm not, I would say don't get hung up over the ground rules. If you think you're going to win the debate, then have the debate. At the end of the day, Jonathan, if this is an election about Donald Trump, he's going to lose. And if it's a referendum on him. And so that, that's the opportunity for the Harris campaign, essentially, to use this.
The debate over the debate. We reckon this will continue right up until about, September the 9th or something. OK, more than 200 Republicans who worked for 3 of the most recent GOP nominees prior to former President Trump are now endorsing Vice President Kamala Harris, yes, the Democrat. In a letter, the 238 Republicans, which includes staffers from former President George W. Bush's White House and Senators John McCain and Mitt Romney's presidential campaigns, urge more moderate Republicans and independents to, quote, take a brave stand once more. The group builds on a smaller set of about 150 Republicans who pledged to support then-candidate Biden back in 2020. And it comes after a Democratic convention that included conservatives like former Congressman Adam Kinzinger speaking to common values that transcend party. The letter further states, quote, of course, we have plenty of honest, ideological disagreements with Vice President Harris and Governor Walz. That's to be expected. The alternative, however, is simply untenable. At home, another 4 years of Donald Trump's chaotic leadership, this time focused on advancing the dangerous goals of Project 2025, will hurt real, everyday people and weaken our sacred institutions. Richard, which are the Republicans who have not stood up yet, who served in the Trump administration, who could actually make a difference in terms of persuading those very few unpersuadable voters who are left? Do you expect any more of them to stand up between now and November?
I mean, there's the former vice president who had, shall we say, a certain physical and political incentive to stand up, given how he was. Do
you think he's going to do it?
No. Look, I think if people were going to stand up, they've had now, shall we say, several years to do it. So I think several people are simply not. And I also wonder at this point, disagree with me if you will, how much of a difference it would make.
Yeah.
It's certainly not going to shake Trump's base. I'm not sure a lot of these people would necessarily influence the independents or a sort of small number of voters in swing states. So it'll be interesting to see. I just find it, it's fascinating, Heidi, how many of the people who work with him most closely, who know him best, have come out against him. And that to me is a stunning indictment.
Yeah, I mean, no questions. Those who know him the best have decided not to back him, Eugene. But Adam Kinzinger, Republican, spoke at the Democratic convention last week, gave a good speech. And Tim Miller, our friend from MSNBC and The Bulwark, noted, though, he applauded him. But, where were the rest? We know that some of these have spoken out against him privately. But where was John Kelly? Where was Rex Tillerson? Where was Mike Pence? Where was George W. Bush? Where was Liz Cheney? The list goes on and on. People who have privately and sometimes publicly made it clear that they disagree with Donald Trump. They would never vote for him again. But there's always been something holding them back to take that center stage, whether it's political ambition or the like, to actually forcefully not just denounce Trump, but back Harris. Do you see any of that changing? And to Richard's point, does it even matter?
I don't see it changing. I mean, if every prominent Republican who who inwardly, secretly despises Donald Trump and thinks he's dangerous for the country and the world, and he had spoken at the Democratic convention, there wouldn't have been any room for Democrats to speak. I mean, it's not like there's a shortage of these people. But it's very clear at this point, after years, that many of them are not going to come out. They're going to remain in exile or in the closet, I guess. Does it make a difference that this group came out? I think just very marginally. I think in so far as they're trying to create a permission structure for establishment Republican voters who really don't want to vote for either Trump or Harris to just go ahead and vote for Harris. I don't think there are necessarily a lot of people who are going to be pushed off that fence to actually voting for Harris, but tight election, and so small numbers can make a big difference.
But you know what, Katty? I think there's two ways that I've seen Republicans in this Trump era go at the former president while also trying to preserve republicanism in the way that they remember it. You've got people like Adam Kinzinger who are taking the outside approach, appearing at a Democratic convention, trying to create what Eugene rightly calls out as the permission structure to patriotically maintain your time as a conservative, but vote for small d democracy by voting for Kamala Harris. And then you've got people like Mike Pence, like Liz Cheney, some of the other names that we've mentioned here, who are never going to come out and disavow their party, in large part because they want to stay within it so that they can carry the future torch of it when Trump, if Trump is at the end of his political career, whether that's in 2024 or at some point in the future. There are two different ways that they're trying to go about this. And so I don't think we're going to see Mike Pence or Liz Cheney come out and endorse the Democrats and say, I am no longer a Republican. They want to stay within the party for a reason. They want to carry that torch forward.
Yeah, the voice I would like to hear is George W. Bush.
I think you're right.
And I do think that is a voice that actually could make some sort of a difference. I don't know that any of the others could, but it's possible that George W. Bush could do. OK, so let's turn overseas. Russia has launched what is being described as its biggest attack on Ukraine in weeks. NBC News correspondent Erin McLaughlin has the latest for us.
In Kyiv, a Russian missile strikes near a critical dam, stunning Ukrainian soldiers. Part of Russia's latest attempt, the Ukrainian president says, to terrify. Russia launched more than 120 missiles and 100 drones, he says, killing at least 4 and damaging civilian infrastructure, triggering rolling blackouts in the capital and sparking international condemnation.
We condemn in the strongest possible terms Russia's continued war against Ukraine and its efforts to plunge the Ukrainian people into darkness.
The attack, days after Ukraine marked its independence, with a somber ceremony in the capital. Our team woke to the sound of explosions and took shelter, as did millions of other Ukrainians. Metro stations once again doubled as safe havens. Yet within hours, life returned to normal as the fighting rages on and Ukrainian commanders braced for a long war.
We fight for our freedom.
2 years ago, we met Colonel Igor Obolensky, shortly after his men pushed the Russians out of the area around Kharkiv. Since then, he fought in the battle for Bakhmut, one of the bloodiest of the war.
The last time we met, you told me something that stuck with me, that you were fighting for your little boy.
Yeah.
So that he didn't have to.
Yeah.
When your son becomes a man,
yeah.
Do you think this war will still be going?
Maybe, yeah. But it's not very active phase, but I think, yeah, it will be.
That was NBC's Erin McLaughlin with that report. Meanwhile, negotiations continue in Cairo this week for a ceasefire and hostage release deal in Gaza. According to White House National Security spokesperson John Kirby, discussions will continue for the next few days. One issue to be tackled includes how many hostages may be exchanged,